Yeah. So you believe in that dark energy is the creative force of the universe?
One of them. Yeah, but I think the quantum realm is the actual creative force of the universe, and it has different manifestations, and it is literally underlying everything that comes into being within us.
How much do you think we've mapped out the quantum realm?
Oh, very little. Because we keep looking at it from trying to marry it with relativistic physics, which it can't be.
Well, do you think that's because there's a flaw in relativistic physics, or
No,
do
we're
you
starting
think
from the wrong point. If you don't start from the beginning and you go halfway through the novel, you're not going to realize what the story actually even started from, and that's the quantum. The appearance of all that is actually erupts from that. So if you're trying to examine something after it's already been brought into existence, and you're trying to trace it back when there's so many intangibles that you have to look at, we don't have the power, the brain power, the computing power, whatever it is, to trace that back that way. You have to start from the source. It's like curing a disease. If you just treat the symptom, the disease never goes away. But and the same with trying to marry
well,
relativistic
how
with
do
quantum.
you think we can get to the source?
Oh, absolutely. We are the source. We just keep trying to. We keep trying to do it in these obscure kind of theoretical ways that.
Well, don't you think it's theoretical to say that we are the source? Because, I mean,
I know everything is the source. I'm saying the underlying ground of all reality is quantum. So, and therefore, everything that it arises from our cells, from the atoms that make up our cells, coming from particles that are emitted from the quantum. Everything that we see, that we experience, is that happening, that collapsing of those particles into this reality. To me, it goes back to the definition of truth. That's the same as quantum goes to the same with the universal consciousness. It is exactly the same thing. It's the birthplace, the emergence point of everything that is. The two are synonymous as far as I'm concerned. So to look at it more in even if you want to call it a metaphysical, I mean, I don't like know that term because it is kind of misused. But at the same time, if you look at it more of a holistic, instead of trying to figure out the one individual part, let's look at the actual happening and go from there and look at the emergence of all of this from that, even though it never is separate from it, because it's always the same emergence. It's always the same. And when it comes in, there's things that are connected, the entanglement. So we get kind of a continuity, even though our brain makes up a whole lot of shit that doesn't actually exist. But we get a continuity through the entanglement of these particles as they come into neighborhoods, say cells in our body. It comes into a neighborhood, a new particle, electron, proton, pops up in an atom, and it's got neighbors. So it talks with them. It gets a little telephone, and all of a sudden, hey, I know kind of what I'm supposed to do. Let's do that. And I think cancers sometimes, they point to an idea that these particles come into existence, and they're little miswiring, whatever, the entanglement isn't quite at what it was, and or something, maybe there's a malignance that's close by, and they start identifying with that instead. Some foreign body, like plastic throughout our entire body, it starts talking to the plastic molecule and says, well, maybe I need to, entangle with the plastic molecule. And then boom, off goes the cavalcade.
Well, that definitely would explain a lot of ideas around dis-ease and sickness being tied into dis-ease of our body mind. But then what you were saying is on a purely quantum and energetic level. That entanglement would be occurring and causing the arising to happen. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you take the idea that all of this arising is that, all of reality is, quantum particles coming into existence, getting to know its neighbors, and still having the capability, by the way, to exchange information millions, billions of light years away. Because again, it's just one aspect. There is no two aspects to consciousness. It's just one. So the idea that everything is still, I don't even want to say connected, because it doesn't actually describe, the level, the depth. But at the same time, there are local environments, the space localities within the cells in our body that are, there's a more prevalence, kind of a magnetic attraction, because it is in proximity to. So it actually, it takes on more of those flavors, but it still has the total capability of still communicating with those disparate fields, which I think we inherently have. And by using too much of the technological, whatever you want to call it, we're limiting ourselves by knowing that we have the ability to influence just by the understanding. It's like, for the yogis with the practice, with the levitation, with the able to move from place to place without ever going there. I think that's all little, and it's not magic. It's literally just understanding the nature of reality, how it comes into existence, how entanglement works, how you can actually, locate yourself in a different position by never actually even moving. That you are here, and you're here, which is the same place, but now it's in a different actual point, but you've never transferred anyway because you're in consciousness. It's all the same thing. Movement is the illusion. I think we can access this. I really do. I don't think that there's anything that will keep us from, if we don't get tied down in the hole trying to achieve something that isn't. I think that's an affirmation right there.
We can achieve it, and it is entirely possible. Yeah, but who achieves what?
Well, no, I mean, a consciousness is literally, it's that evolving. It's consciousness evolving. There's not an individual that's achieving anything, and I think once it happens, like the idea of total enlightenment for all of beings, that's what that would entail. The fact that we would have the ability to not be localized anymore, to not be constrained by that.
Well, don't you think that constraint is, the laws of physics are different types of constraints.
Changing all the time. Yeah, again, they're taking it from a relativistic.
But life is relative. That is a big part of what existence is.
But it erupts from the quantum.
You see, there's this point where we're jumping from 0 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
And in this mid ground, like around 20 to 30, okay? Quantum is the 60. That 0 is total stillness. The midpoint is what I'm talking about, because if you get, it's very easy to rationalize a number of things from the infiniteness of the quantum,
mm-hmm.
but it does not necessarily give it a grounding in how do I apply that to my suffering, or how do I use that towards transforming sadness. So when it comes down to concrete experiences, and suffering and sadness and death are the most concrete ones, all those ideas, no matter how true they are, they're just ideas. And that's where practice comes in.
They're not ideas, they're actuality.
They are, but without a practice, without a way to bring them, see, everything's in actuality.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything's in actuality, but you can't experience everything. Mm-hmm. You're back at 60 again, and it's that middle ground that I think is everybody's at a place where they need knowledge that how can I apply that mm-hmm. to what's happening to me, and the infiniteness of reality, and that your thoughts create reality doesn't help someone who feels oppressed or broken or sick or dying.
Mm.
Those ideas, as true as they are, they need a way to get them to 60, and that is where practice comes in.
Exactly.
And then that's where individual responsibility comes in, because I can't give my practice to anybody. They, as much as I would like to, they have to stabilize their own mind in order to see those things. Mm-hmm. And in order to see those things, they have to undergo it can be a real storm of facing the inner demons before you can get to those levels of understanding.
Yeah.
Because as true as that is, taking it down to a concrete level is one of the hardest things, and that's really what I think is important, because otherwise philosophy is beautiful, and
But this isn't philosophy. This is Buddhist thought. If you want to stop being dissatisfied, stop identifying as the self. This isn't some extrapolate long path or tradition. It literally, he puts it really succinctly. Get the fuck out of your head.
I completely agree.
It's yourself. It's the idea of self that is causing the dissatisfaction. So if you don't want to be dissatisfied, sad, whatever it is anymore, stop identifying with this illusory self, because you're the one creating it.
But you can say that to someone who's in this position, but you can't really say that to someone who's in intense suffering. That's one.
Even though it's the only key to unlock the door.
Yeah, there's got to be other.
Because you're not going to find another key. There is no other key. You can placate the suffering for years, but you're never going to put an end to it until you actually figure out that there's no you to suffer.
Yeah, that's completely true.
I mean, you
know
can
that again,
keep
but that
going to
puts it back
psychotherapy
on
forever, but all you do is lose money.
Well, yeah, but psychotherapy is only dealing with the ego. It doesn't deal with the selfless nature of things. So that in and of itself shows the limits
that's how we
of.
placate this in our society. If you're feeling sad, take a pill or go see someone, instead of the exploration of what would it be not to be a self. It doesn't take away function whatsoever. You still are the function of consciousness. And when we see ourselves as that, it becomes that's the only freedom and liberation that's available to an individual, is realizing they're not. That's the only way out of the prison that is self-created. Seeing ourselves as and I don't want to say a mere function, but it is that. It is a mere function. There is no great epiphany to it. It's a mere function of consciousness, as we all are. There's no distinction. And when that is grasped, when that is seen, when that truth is realized, all of those other things, they don't fall away, because they still happen to us, because we're still in this third dimensional reality. And this is what comes in our lives. But we realize the effect is our choice. We can choose to go further with it. We can choose to realize that it's not us that it's happening to. It is just movement in consciousness. Nothing to grab onto. There's no there, because it is just a movement. You can't grab the wind. But we keep trying. We keep trying to make it ours. But you can't do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's that, again, you're at 60 and trying to talk to someone who's is trying to even get from 15 to 20, it's the. So that's
it was 3 days under a tree, though. It seemed to work for one guy. So that path wasn't very long, and the journey didn't take too much time.
No, but wait, before that.
Oh, sure, but that has no relevance, because that's just story. Did it lead to it? We'll never know.
It is the very nature of Buddhist thought is that it is very much this comes to this, the law of dependent co-arising. So Buddha would definitely say his days under the
How long
Bo
does
tree.
the co-arising take, though, in a being time? Could it happen in an instant?
Well, everything.
Could the whole universe have been created in an instant? And is it created every instant? When you take away that equation, saying that there has to be this unfolding, then you're putting the time constraint on it. But what if there is no time constraint? What if that is like that? Who's to say it can't be? Who's to say it isn't? Who's to say we don't have that epiphany every single moment, and that's how we actually see this? That we have to go through that all the time. We just don't take it to the next logical step of knowing that it's not us that it's actually happening to. That there is no individual that is reacting or moving through this. That is just the interplay of consciousness. That's it.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like us and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified for when we post new videos. We love comments and questions, so we deeply encourage that. Also, we just started a Patreon page where you can become a monthly subscriber to view special videos. Remember, stay in the moment.